What is going on, everybody? It's Jack of all trades, Trey. I'm whatever you want to call me. I'm back. I took a long break for Christmas break, and I just started school back up. So it's been a while, and I apologize for that. I'm really trying to get back on it. I've got a couple ideas coming that I want to start incorporating. I want to start uploading. It's just kind of getting a matter of time to getting my recordings done with school and homework and all that. Some of you guys know how that is. Some of you will know how that is. So today, I've decided that I'm going to be doing my all-star starters for you all. And I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been thinking about it in depth for a little bit. And I think it'd be best for me to show you who I think the all-star starter should be. And I'll talk about some players that I think are close and should be picked, or should be on the all-star team, but won't be starters. So we'll start in the East, and we'll go with the guards. So the first guard that's being taken, in my opinion, so we've got everybody who we can possibly vote in, but those guys down there don't matter. Pretty much the top two rows are the only people who are even pretty much eligible for the all-star team. So the first all-star to me is Jaylen Brown. He's averaging 27.1, 3.5 assists, and 5.4 rebounds on really, really good efficiency. And you have to reward him because his team's good. The Boston Celtics are a great team this year. And as much as Jason Tatum's been amazing, Jaylen Brown has been the heart of this team. He's been the best player for the Celtics this season. And he really does deserve this. He deserves this spot. Now, the second guard, typically, I would like to reward winners, reward the winning teams. But, I think we all know who's getting put on here. Bradley Beal, averaging 35 points a game, 5 assists and 5 rebounds. Yes, his team is one of the worst teams in the league, maybe the worst team in the league, but that has nothing to do with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal has been amazing, and he needs out of Washington. He's been ridiculous for them. I'm going to remove that so I can talk about some of these other guys. Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is a very, very popular choice as well, but to me, he's the third option on a great team. Second or third option. I personally would have him third, but he had such a long leave of absence that I mean, we were talking about him retiring a couple weeks ago, and people thought he could retire and just leave basketball. So I don't think he should be rewarded with an all-star starting vote right now until, things obviously are warranted to change, but at the moment, I don't think so. Trae Young, I think Trae Young has been amazing for most of the season. He's averaging 27, 8.5, 4 on pretty good efficiency. And the Hawks are a good team. They're a lot better than expected. But Trae Young went through a phase of games, a good 5 to 8 games where he just wasn't himself. He wasn't taking as many shots. He lost his confidence. He wasn't getting to the free throw line. So for that, I think he's been amazing, but I don't think he's been as good as Jaylen Brown or Bradley Beal at all. Zach LaVine. All of these people deserve to be on the all-star team. Zach LaVine, averaging 27, 5, and 5. He's been really good for a Bulls team that is kind of playing about at the level, maybe even a little bit better than people thought right now. They started off slow, but have been doing a lot better. He should be an all-star. Colin Sexton, I think Colin Sexton's been great, but I don't think he's an all-star this year. The Cavs have the worst offense in the NBA, one of the best defenses, which is surprising considering that him and Darius Garland both are 6'1" in their backcourt. I don't think Colin Sexton is going to be an all-star this year. James Harden. James Harden is going to be an all-star. He's James Harden, and I think he deserves to be an all-star, but he kind of coasted in Houston. He's barely been in the East, so I don't think he personally deserves to be a starter. And then this player, I think, deserves to be an all-star. Malcolm Brogdon deserves to be an all-star, but I think he's going to get snubbed. I think he's going to be the snub of the year. Averaging 23, 7, and 4 on really great efficiency and running the point for a decent Pacers team. But if you've watched the Pacers, you see how important Malcolm Brogdon is. He's shooting a ridiculous amount from 3, but I think he's going to get snubbed, but I personally think he deserves to be an all-star. So let's get to the front court for the East. The front court's very simple. First person I'm putting in the front court is Joel Embiid. He's the early season favorite for MVP for me, averaging 28, 11, and 3. I mean, the 76ers are one of the best teams in the league, and it's mainly due to Joel Embiid. When you watch him play, you can just see the impact that he has. And when he's not on the court, the Sixers really struggle. Next is, in my opinion, the second top candidate for MVP, Kevin Durant. Best player on a great team with the Brooklyn Nets, averaging, we'll round up 31, 6, and 8. I mean, that's a ridiculous like those stats are ridiculous. And KD's been playing amazing after coming off of a terrible injury that could really have ruined his career. He's been, I wouldn't say surprising, but he's definitely been better than expected. And I'm very impressed with how good Kevin Durant's been. But at the end of the day, he is Kevin Durant. I mean, there's not a ton of explanation. And then last is the reigning 2-time MVP Giannis. I mean, averaging 28, 6, and 11 and a half. I mean, his stats are almost as good, if not arguably better than Joel Embiid's. But the Bucks are kind of coasting this season. He's playing great, but I don't think they're up at that level that they were last year, which could be a good thing. Maybe they're preserving it for the playoffs this year instead of switching the great regular season to a great playoff team. Jason Tatum, he's going to be an all-star. He's been really good for the Celtics. He's been their second best player, in my opinion. Jeremy Grant has been really good. I don't think he's an all-star. I think the Pistons aren't good enough for him to be an all-star. He's not putting up ridiculous stats like Bradley Beal. Gordon Hayward. I think Gordon Hayward will get snubbed this year. I think he's been great, but I think there's just too many front court guys who deserve it. Like these four on top. I think Nikola Vucevic will be an all-star. He has been a bright spot for an okay Magic team. I mean, he's been carrying. He's been ridiculous, especially with all the injuries they've gone through. Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle's an all-star this year. I mean, he's averaging 22 and a half, 6, and 11. He's running point forward for the Knicks. I mean, you ask him to do it, and he's doing it right now for New York. Down here, Chris Middleton. I think Chris Middleton's an all-star this year. I mean, he's averaging 21, 6, and 6 and a half on a Bucks team that's okay, but him and Giannis are really, really doing a lot. Another all-star, Domantas Sabonis. I mean, he's averaging 21, 6, and 12. He's been the brightest spot for the Pacers. He's been very good. He was an all-star last year, and he's been even better this year. And then the last person who I think will make the all-star team is Bam Adebayo. I mean, his stats are 25 and a half and 9 and a half. So his stats aren't as ridiculously off the wall as everybody else's that has made the all-star team. But if you watch the Miami Heat, you see the impact that Bam Adebayo has on the game. I mean, he has the ability. He is the game changer for every game. He has the ability to take over and win the game. So those are your East all-star starters. And now we'll go to the West, where I think personally the West is a lot easier than the East. So for your starting guards, Steph Curry has been amazing. He has propelled the Warriors into the playoff contention right now. A bad Warriors team where he's pretty much alone. He's missing Clay. I mean, Draymond's back, but Draymond's not the old Draymond anymore. I mean, he's averaging 28, 6, and 5, and he's moved them up. And then also to go with Steph in the backcourt, I have Luka Doncic. I mean, the man's almost averaging a 27-point triple-double pretty much. I mean, that's ridiculous. The fact that he's not higher up in the MVP conversations is because the Mavericks aren't very good. But just think, Russell Westbrook got an MVP for averaging a triple-double, and Luka's about to average a 30-point triple-double if he keeps it up. And this kid, he's going to be great for years. Other players who could definitely have made it, Damian Lillard, obviously. He will be the 6th, 7th man off the bench for the Western All-Stars, I think. I know that East and West is the same, but he would be 6 or 7. I don't think he's done enough to put himself in Curry or Doncic's range, considering CJ McCollum, who's injured now, who probably won't make the All-Star team because he's been injured. His stats, as you can see here, have helped Dame's stats so much. Donovan Mitchell, I think Donovan Mitchell's an All-Star this year. The Jazz are so good this year, so unexpectedly. I mean, they're always a good team, but they're better than good this year. Devin Booker will make the All-Star team, averaging 23, 4, and 3.5. His stats aren't nearly as good as they were last time, but the Suns are in playoff contention now, and he's playing with Chris Paul, and he's got teammates that are finally filling their shoes and getting older and maturing. So Devin Booker definitely deserves it. And then two guys on the border for me are, or three guys on the border are Ja, Shea, and De'Aaron Fox. I think all three of them have the chance to make it, but I think all three of them are just still a little too young to make it. I mean, they all have very, very similar stats being put up, and all are on not great teams, but are doing good things with their not great teams. So I think they will be their future all-stars, but I don't think they're current all-stars yet. And now for the front court for the West. First person you have to put on there is LeBron James. I mean, he's averaging 25, 7.5, and 8. I mean, as my girlfriend says, he is the king. She's over there doing homework. She didn't even hear me. But the king is the first all-star to be put on for the front court. Oh, she just raised the roof. I mean, the Lakers are just as good as they were last year. And that is largely in part with LeBron, who has not missed a game yet all season and has just been dominating. Next up for me is the fourth. So LeBron will be third for me in MVP voting, but fourth, real close to him, is Nikola Jokic. I think Nikola Jokic deserves to be a starter. I mean, he's averaging 26, 9, and 12. I mean, his stats are ridiculous. His team's doing a lot better after their early season woes. I'm very impressed with Nikola Jokic. He is doing it all for the Nuggets, anything they need. I would love to see them get Bradley Beal. I mean, they have a trade piece like Michael Porter Jr. there already. Trade him and a couple picks for Bradley Beal, and I think that boosts the Nuggets, who are already contenders for the Western Conference, from contenders for the Western Conference to being favorites in the Western Conference. And then the last starter is Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi's had a quiet year from the standpoint that you don't notice how good he is. I mean, he's averaging 26, 5, and 5. Like, everybody's hearing how good Paul George has been, and Paul George has been amazing right now. I mean, he's averaging 24, 5, and 6. He's been ridiculous, but Kawhi's been better, and Paul George has been playing so good that it's overshadowing how good Kawhi Leonard's been. So personally, I think Kawhi Leonard would be the starter. Coming off the bench, obviously you have players like Anthony Davis, who will be probably the 6th or 7th man along with Damian Lillard coming up in from the West. And then players like Paul George. I think Zion Williamson is an all-star. I think I talked about Paul George a little bit. I think Zion Williamson's an all-star this year. I mean, him and Brandon Ingram. I mean, Zion's playing better than Brandon Ingram. It's still Brandon Ingram's team for now, but I think Zion is taking over this team very, very shortly. I mean, he's averaging 24 points, 2 assists, and 7.5, 8 rebounds. The assists need to go up, but I think a lot of that is largely to do with the Van Gundy system. I think it's hard for Zion really to do what he does in the slow-paced offense that they run, especially considering Steven Adams is there with him, clogging up the paint, where Zion needs open space. But Brandon Ingram's still playing amazing, and he's a borderline all-star too. I don't know if the Pelicans are good enough to have 2 all-stars this year. I mean, he's averaging 24, 5, and 5, and he's been great. But I think Zion deserves the all-star before Brandon Ingram, and I am not a Zion Williamson hype advocate, but he's living up to what people are saying about him right now. I know I haven't hit everybody who could be possible all-stars, but I think Christian Wood has a chance. It depends on how many people are making it. I haven't really counted my total. I mean, we've got the 5 starters: Damian Lillard, Devin Booker. Who else did I have in the backcourt? Paul George, Anthony Davis, Zion. I mean, Ingram, maybe Christian Wood. He'll be a borderline. He could, but he's a prime snub candidate along with Gordon Hayward and Malcolm Brogdon to me. So that's it. I mean, I don't think there's any arguing this. I don't think anybody can argue this. This is the starting 5 for the West and the East. The only position I could see being argued maybe is Jaylen Brown, or putting Damian Lillard into the starting lineup for the Western backcourt. But I think especially the front courts are solidified. I don't think there's any debating that. So those are the 2021 All-Stars for me. Well, the dog is barking, so I think that's my time to go. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great